All right, let's dive into one of the Bible's most mind-bending books, Zechariah. It's packed with wild visions, really deep symbolism, and a message that, honestly, still hits home thousands of years later. So today, we're going to unpack chapter 1 and get to the heart of its urgent call to return.
And right here, this one verse, this is basically the theme song for the whole chapter. It's God's direct, powerful invitation, come back to me and I'll come back to you. You know that promise of restoration. It's the key that unlocks everything else we're about to see.
Okay, so before we get into the visions and all that, we've got to set the scene. To really get what this promise meant, you have to understand the world Zechariah was living in. Prophecy never just happens in a vacuum, right? It's always for a specific time and a specific place.
I mean, look how specific this is. It's not a fairy tale once upon a time. The Bible pins this right down to a specific moment, the 8th month of the 2nd year of King Darius I. We're talking 520 BC. To be even more exact, that's October-November of that year. And believe me, this was a super critical moment for the people of Judah.
And here's something really cool. Zechariah wasn't working alone. He had a partner in crime, so to speak. If you look at this timeline, you see his prophecy in the 8th month is sandwiched right between messages from another prophet, Haggai. They were like a tag team, both pushing the people to do one thing, get back to work and rebuild that temple.
And man, did they need that push. Think about it. They'd come back from exile in Babylon full of hope. They even laid the foundation for the new temple, 16 years before this. But then, nothing. The project just completely stalled out. People got tired, they faced opposition, it was a mess. So Zechariah's message comes right into this feeling of, is this ever going to happen?
So God's message through Zechariah is pretty blunt. He's basically saying, hey, look at your history. Don't be like your ancestors. It's this powerful warning telling them to learn from the past. The subtext is crystal clear. You guys have a chance to break the cycle that got your forefathers kicked out of the land in the first place. Don't blow it. And then he hits them with this really heavy question. Your fathers, where are they? The answer, of course, is that they're gone. People come and go, but, and this is the kicker, what about God's word, his warnings? Those didn't just disappear. They took hold. They had real, tangible, and honestly devastating consequences. And Zechariah says even their ancestors, after everything fell apart, had to admit, yep, God's word was true.
Okay, so after that direct sermon, the whole vibe of the chapter just shifts. We go from a history lesson straight into a series of 8 wild symbolic visions. And Zechariah sees them all in a single night. Buckle up.
Now, these visions aren't just random dreams. They're a roadmap of God's plan. You've got judgment for Israel's enemies and incredible restoration for Jerusalem. For this explainer, we're going to focus on the first 2, because they really set the stage for everything else.
All right, vision number 1, horsemen and mercy. The Bible gives us another timestamp here. We've jumped forward a few months to February of 519 BC. So let's see what Zechariah saw.
So a vision starts, and it's strange. You've got a man on a red horse, just standing among some myrtle trees down in a ravine, a low place. And behind him, there's this whole crew of other horsemen on red, speckled, and white horses. It's a really mysterious, striking image.
And just as we're all thinking, what in the world is going on, Zechariah asks the exact same thing. He just comes right out and asks, what are these? And that question is our signal that we're about to get some answers.
So it turns out, these horsemen are like God's secret agents, his scouts. They've been patrolling the whole earth, and the report comes back, and it's not great news. They say, the whole world is at peace. Everything's quiet. Now, you might think that sounds good, but here's the problem. The rest of the world is at ease, but Jerusalem is still a wreck.
And that brings us to this number, 70. This is the key. It's about the 70 years of God's indignation, the 70 years of judgment and exile that Jerusalem and Judah had just gone through.
So when the angel of the Lord hears this report, he cries out. It's this incredibly passionate plea to God. How long? How long are you going to withhold mercy from Jerusalem? It's been 70 years. You can feel the tension, right? The world is fine, but God's people are still suffering. When is it going to end?
And wow, God's answer is immediate and powerful. He doesn't hesitate. He basically says, I'm back and I'm bringing mercy with me. My house will be built. And then he mentions stretching a measuring line over the city. That's what a builder does right before they start construction. The message is clear.
We're not just talking about this anymore. It's happening. And look at this. The history backs it up completely. The vision happened, Haggai and Zechariah get to work in 520 BC, and boom, just 5 years later, the temple is finished. So this wasn't just some nice, hopeful dream. It was a literal preview of what was about to happen.
Okay, so we've had mercy. Now get ready for judgment. The next vision shifts focus to the powerful nations that have been giving God's people so much trouble.
Zechariah looks up and sees 4 horns. Now, in the Bible, horns are always a symbol of power, usually aggressive military power. Think of a big, angry bull. And the angel confirms it, saying these are the horns, the nations, that scattered Judah, Israel, and Jerusalem.
But then, for every action, there's a reaction. God shows him 4 carpenters, or craftsmen, and their job description is pretty awesome. They're here to terrify and throw down the very horns that scattered Judah. They're the wrecking crew for these oppressive empires.
So who are these 4 big bad empires? Well, scholars have a pretty good idea. We're likely talking about the major world powers that had crushed God's people over the centuries. You know, the big names. Assyria, who wiped out the northern kingdom, Babylon, who destroyed Jerusalem, the usual suspects.
So what about the craftsmen? Are they another empire? Not exactly. They represent God's sovereign power to just dismantle empires. He's the ultimate craftsman of history, and he can use one power to judge another. Think about how he used Persia to topple Babylon. The point is, no matter how big an empire gets, God is bigger, and he's the one in charge.
And this really brings us right back to that first sermon, to that question he asked at the very beginning. See, these visions of mercy and judgment aren't just a cool light show. They're the why behind the call to return. They prove that God's word is serious business. Just like his warnings came true for their ancestors, his promises of restoration and judgment are going to come true for them. His word sticks.
So you have to ask yourself, what does a message that's 2,500 years old have to say to us today? We've seen a story about God's incredible faithfulness in a world where empires rise and fall like dominoes. So the real question isn't just, is this interesting? But how does this challenge me? In our own crazy world of constant change and uncertainty, what does it mean to trust in a God whose word endures forever?